Okay, ready for day two here in chapter 18 of Behold Your God, the concept of mercy and forgiveness, mercy and grace, I should say. And so we're not going to review all that we talked about in lesson one, but essentially remember the parable, Matthew 18, was the kind of the good intro to this chapter, and just really seeing the contrast between someone being shown mercy and grace and then them not showing it to others. And you see here in our slide. That's the idea, and that's what we need to do as Christians. So, of course, the common person was forgiven his debt, but then went and held someone else accountable for mere pennies compared to what he owed. And of course, when the king found that out and heard about that, he was, of course, angry and kind of changed his mind essentially, and decided to hold the common person to his debt. And so, kind of, we're continuing on here into. Then the application for us is the idea of forgiveness. So if Christ wanted, obviously in his parable about this man, to really show forgiveness, he was showing forgiveness, and yet he didn't show it to others, right? And almost in an incredible way, because he was shown in this amazing debt that was forgiven. And yet he had a small debt that he wasn't even willing to kind of let go. He wanted to hold that man accountable. So it's really a good application of mercy and grace is forgiveness. And that idea that because we have been shown mercy and grace, we as well then, great application, is forgiveness. So the question comes up then, forgiveness, and we look at that first question, what is forgiveness? And really, there's kind of a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation that we're going to look at today that you see in your workbook there. So the first part there, forgiveness is the decision not to hold others' offenses against them. So obviously we hear the applications all the time, not whether it's your friend, whether it's your future spouse, whatever it might be, that it's a decision, it's a choice to forgive them. It's not a feeling, it's not, oh, I might be able to get over it emotionally eventually. No, it's a decision right then and there. Okay, yes, you may have wronged me, or you may have done something that upset me, but I'm making the decision to not hold it against you. I'm making the decision essentially to forgive you, right? And to kind of just forget about it. Essentially, it's again, there was an offense. Notice there was something that happened that wasn't pleasant. It was an offense. It was something that was wrong, and yet forgiveness is not holding that against them. So there's a little bit of a contrast here. Reconciliation then is the decision to restore your relationship with those people back to its original intimacy. So some interesting words there. Of course, restore, we know, is to kind of put back to normal, or how it was. So you're kind of trying to fix that relationship. And then intimacy, right, is just a word for closeness, or you really have a good relationship with someone. So it's the decision to kind of build that trust up and that friendship again. You're not just forgiving them and moving on, but you're saying, okay, I'm going to work now actively to kind of restore that relationship back with you. God, of course, offers forgiveness to everyone, right? So that by God is given to all. That's a decision he made when he sent Christ, his son, to die on the cross, is that he won't hold our offenses against us, and he will forgive us. Reconciliation, although, if we look at it in that spiritual context, might not always be possible. And you want to know that difference for the quiz. We'll talk about that in a minute, what the quiz will look like here for this week online. But essentially, reconciliation, forgiveness can always happen because it's your choice, right? It's your decision to forgive someone. Reconciliation, on the other hand, may not always be possible, and you want to know that for the quiz. They gave an example here in the text. It says, for example, a person assaulted by a mugger has no responsibility to trust or be vulnerable to that criminal ever again. The victim might forgive the criminal, but the victim is right to pursue justice, to report the criminal, to let the authorities make sure the criminal never harms anyone else. So in other words, you can forgive them. You can choose not to hold one's offenses against them, but you can't always necessarily restore that relationship. Now, that's the goal, right? And that's what we as Christians want to do, is be able to restore that relationship with those that maybe have wronged us. But it might not always be possible. Though God offers forgiveness to all of us, he reconciles only those people who approach him in faith and repentance. Same thing for God. God's going to forgive everyone. He's already done that, right? He's already made that decision. But the reconciliation part is essentially a trust, a belief, salvation, essentially, right? Where we're turning back to God and seeking to have that fellowship and relationship with Him, because He has forgiven us, and we can live for Him. And again, if we cling to our sin, we're not going to have reconciliation. He's not going to restore us to a relationship with Him in eternity unless we make that choice. So kind of the same idea is that forgiveness is always available, but reconciliation really is only available on the spiritual end. It's in our boat. Essentially, we have to pursue God and ask for that forgiveness and that reconciliation. So then the question then, how to forgive? How should we forgive those who hurt us? Well, back to the parable, Matthew 18. I encourage you to look at these verses here as we kind of look at these couple verses to kind of finish out this teacher lesson portion. But essentially, just before Christ told this parable, He gave His disciples a model of forgiveness. Look at verse 15. It says, "Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established." Verse 17, "If he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let it be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." And then verse 19 and 20, "Again I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them." We're familiar a little bit with verse 20 there. But essentially, He's given us a model there of how to forgive. And He's saying, go to the person, then take someone with you. And again, kind of almost essentially the biblical model of seeking to restore that relationship with someone. So we got a couple blanks here. You'll notice bottom page 188 for how to forgive. And the first one there is really just discover what made the relationship break down. So whether or not it was our fault or their fault, whatever it might be, if we're going to truly build that relationship and forgive, right, someone that has wronged us, we have to first figure out, okay, what went wrong? What kind of was the problem that made the relationship break down? It could be, again, on our side, it could be on their side. Kind of identify all the possible misunderstandings. And that first step really is to be honest about our own shortcomings, right? Lots of times it's not everyone else's fault. Okay, it started with us. So discover what made that relationship break down. Then confess any of your sin to God. So essentially, okay, where was I wrong in this situation? And let me get my heart right, my attitude right, and kind of approach this kind of step of forgiveness with the right attitude. Then decide, your last blank there on page 188, decide to forgive the other person. Again, it's a choice. Commit to live that forgiveness. Bitterness, right, is the opposite. It's a bad habit. It will eat away at your ability to love and to trust. It's so easy to be bitter at people that don't have the same response that we do, right? We think, oh, I'm trying to forgive and I'm trying to do what's right and all these things, and then we're bitter because the other person doesn't act that same way. But again, it's a choice. Forgiveness is a choice, and it's a daily choice to put out of our mind and treat that person just as Christ treats us. So again, not harboring bitterness, but rather deciding to forgive the other person. Okay, then ask forgiveness from the other person if applicable. Do this as soon as you can, as privately as you can. Don't apologize for vague offenses or say something like, well, if I was wrong, forgive me, right? That's often our tendency when we're seeking forgiveness, is we're like, well, I think I was fine, but if I did anything wrong, I'm sorry, right? But no, express that you still hope they can forgive you. Be sure, again, to make up for any material way you may have wronged the person. In order to truly make things right, again, fully restore that relationship, whether it was something with a possession or whatever it might be. Just, again, fully ask forgiveness, return, kind of pay back anything that happened during that situation, and truly ask for forgiveness. And then the last one, and this is the big one that really we need to try to do, but is difficult, is restore the person to fellowship if possible. Again, Matthew 18 gives us some great steps on how to do that. And these actually are on your quiz here, some fill in the blanks on how to restore that relationship. So you see there on page 189, it's already filled in there for you. But by restoring the person to fellowship, we first have to resolve the issue with the offender privately. So again, verse 15, not going to make a big deal. Don't go in and kind of make the other person out to be this really awful person that did all these wrong things. No, go to them in private and seek to really just, again, truly seek forgiveness. And then the second step there, can try to resolve the issue, but take 1 or 2 witnesses. So in other words, if they're still unwilling, take 1 or 2 people that can kind of help, but more so they're just there to give accountability and to kind of remind you, hey, if you're not approaching it the right way, you're still kind of approaching it with the, well, if I was wrong, forgive me. Just kind of remind us how to truly be kind of having the right attitude there. So bringing one or two with us. And then tell the church about the offense. And again, this is especially with adults, in the adult context, it's a little bit difficult to kind of bring up offenses with other adults once you're older. But essentially, then that next step is to go to the church and let the assembly, let the pastor kind of speak with the situation. Again, this is trying to restore a relationship, something with someone that is really a big deal, and you want to restore that relationship. That's the next step. And then lastly, finally, if they're unwilling to respond, they're unwilling to have a relationship and again, accept your forgiveness and offer their forgiveness of their own. It says in verse 17, and it's pretty harsh, but it says, treat the offender as if he or she were an unbeliever. Look at verse 17. It says, if he shall neglect to hear them, tell him the church, if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican. So essentially, you're treating them, okay, I can't have a relationship with them. I'm still praying for them. Okay, I'm still trying to interact with them in a positive way, but they need the gospel. They essentially need to understand further about what Christ is. And maybe they're saved, but they don't have a great understanding of Christ's forgiveness for them if they're not willing to forgive after all of those attempts, after all of those steps. You want to highlight, kind of circle those bullet points, those four there. It's kind of a fill-in-the-blank section of the process of restoration that you want to be familiar with for the quiz coming up here when you take it. So again, kind of in conclusion, is that Christ gave this model, right, of how to forgive. And why should we? Well, because God is merciful and gracious to us, we need to show that same mercy and grace to others, right? The whole theme, the whole concept is his mercy and grace. And so if we're going to truly serve God, if we're going to truly strive to be holy, then we have to obey him, right? We have to not sacrifice our thoughts, our emotions, our life to bitterness and guilt, and just harboring those feelings of, I'm not going to forgive, and I'm not going to, accept that I was wrong in this situation. But really seeking to, again, truly seek forgiveness, not only on our own side, but also with that person that may have wronged us, and restoring that relationship. All right, we will get to one more lesson, which is our student lesson. And our essay is in there, so you want to make sure you tune into that one. Here's the plan as far as assessments. Unfortunately, there will be no verse quiz over Lamentations 3:22 through 24. Now, I will say we have a test coming up. Okay, we'll figure out exactly what that'll look like. But this will be an option for the test. But as it stands right now, we won't have a quiz, memory verse quiz over Lamentations 3:22 through 24, although it is a great verse. Again, just talking about the Lord's mercy and grace. Verse 23 is a great one. New every morning, great is thy faithfulness. We all know the song from that verse, Lamentations 3:23. But we will have a quiz. It'll be kind of in a Google form, and that, of course, is on the Google Classroom as well. And so you can take that after this last lesson, lesson number 3, the student lesson. But thanks for tuning in, and we got one more, and then we'll take our Chapter 18 quiz.